When you look at the current U.S. foreign policy, it's almost like watching a high-stakes chess game. Every move seems calculated, especially with these major alliances and rivalries. Take the renewed partnerships with Israel and Saudi Arabia, for example. That $4.1 billion aid boost to Israel right after the Hezbollah clashes really locked in their cooperation. What stands out to you about this approach?
It's the transactional nature that jumps out at me. Trump's administration almost treats these relationships like business contracts. With Saudi Arabia, that $120 billion arms renewal wasn't just about defense. It stabilized OPEC Plus and sent a signal to Russia. But the alliances feel a little fragile, like they could shift if, say, Indonesia joined the Abraham Accords, or if Saudi starts flirting more seriously with BRICS.
Yeah. And then there's the quiet stuff happening in the background: covert U.S. operations, cyber shields, even discreet mediations. It paints a picture of diplomacy that's not just about summits and photo ops, but real-time maneuvering, sometimes off the radar. I have to wonder, does this transactional style actually make these partnerships more adaptable, or just more unpredictable?
Honestly, it's a bit of both. On one hand, the U.S. can pivot quickly if the landscape changes. Think about how they've quietly supported India's defense or covertly coordinated with the UK on cyber threats. But it also leaves room for sudden shifts. Like, if the midterm elections in 2026 turn the tide or new climate deals come up, these alliances could get shaken up overnight.
That actually reminds me of how the threat landscape is evolving. It's not just about obvious, old-school military buildups anymore. Hybrid threats, like those cyber ops from China and election interference by Russia, are getting harder to counter. What's your sense of how the U.S. is handling these multi-layered risks?
What surprised me most is just how integrated the response has to be. It's no longer enough to have traditional military power. Now you need cyber shields, diplomatic pressure, and even economic moves like sanctions or tech decoupling. I mean, U.S. Cyber Command is running continuous ops against China's intelligence services, while at the same time trying to block Russian energy deals in Europe.
And religious extremism adds another layer, right? The report called out Sunni jihadism and even mentioned how virtual reality is being used for radicalization now. The line between state and non-state threats just keeps blurring, which makes response strategies even more complicated.
Totally. Plus, there are new risks cropping up from places you might not expect, like digital white supremacist movements or spillover riots from India's Hindu nationalist tensions. The fusion of ideological and technological threats means law enforcement and intelligence have to look way beyond borders or conventional suspects.
Switching gears a bit, let's talk about those societal touchstones. The report describes AI, climate change, demographics, the economy, and social equity. These aren't just buzzwords. They're the building blocks of how society could transform by 2040. Did anything about AI's projected impact surprise you?
The scale, honestly. We're talking about AI tutors for billions of people and productivity boosts that could change what work even looks like. But at the same time, the negative side jumps out: mass job losses, deep fake-driven distrust, and the rich getting richer. Like, if 800 million people are displaced by automation, that's not just an economic issue, it's social stability on the line.
Exactly. And that theme runs through all the touchstones. Climate action could spark green innovation and resilient communities, but also fuel massive migrations and conflicts. Demographic shifts might bring more diversity and new ideas, but could stress social systems or feed extremism if youth unemployment stays high.
And the way these trends interact, it's almost like a domino effect. For example, AI helps fight climate change through smart grids, but might amplify social inequality if access isn't fair. The report really captures how interconnected and unpredictable all these changes could be.
Funny you say unpredictable. The report's timeline of possible futures really drives that home. By 2030, we could see a world that's hyper-connected but also fragmented, with everyone plugged into their own metaverse communities. That sounds exciting, but a little overwhelming.
It's wild, isn't it? By 2035, the optimistic scenario has AGI handling boring work so people can focus on creativity and things like women-led innovations reshaping the economy. But the other side of the coin is pretty stark: resource wars, mass migrations, and even the potential for societal collapse if we don't manage these risks.
And even in the best case, there's still volatility. The report mentions religious pluralism and equity gains, but also persistent polarization online. It feels like progress and risk are going to be tightly linked, one step forward, maybe half a step back.
That's why the recommendations zero in on resilience from universal basic income to investing in green infrastructure and setting up interfaith task forces. It's all about preparing for both the good and the bad, because the future could swing either way and fast.